was a West Nashville plane.
Well,
It might be more affordable.
We at Barbados. Yes, and nobody doesn't. And now I want to go to Barbados to see her. And she wants me to come, and I'm gonna come a little while when it's time for me to come to Barbados. I don't want. I want to go with until I want. Nabi and Kamali when it's mine. When it's my birthday. Nabi and Kamali are gonna go.
Y'all going to Barbados for your birthday?
No, then Nabi and Kamali are gonna go to Barbados, and then when they're all done, then I'm gonna go to. Then we're gonna go to Barbados.
Everybody's gonna take turns.
We tag team.
Right.
I do not know. I think it's this two of us. And I think it's not anyone. I think it's just us because I've been meeting family.
Nice.
A couple of people on their way, but we can go ahead and get started.
Well, that's good that you got to go. You've been more times than me. I've never been to Barbados before.
You never?
No, I got to get my game up. I got to work on that.
Well, you should get your ticket and go on the plane.
That's it. That's all it is to it, but to do it.
Yes.
Oh, honey. That was some very practical advice. Just get the ticket and just go. You know? Just get the ticket and go. That was very practical.
I do
No,
not.
we're not buying this right now, so put it down.
Yeah, that's nice. Levels.
Can I read my book?
And then we can decide.
Can I read my new book?
Go ask Camila, does she want to?
I'm not
Was she
tired.
coming out to participate?
Camila, are you coming out? He said yes. Why do you want me to? I don't want to. I want to play.
Okay. Greetings, everybody, and everybody face to face.
I don't want to go, Mommy.
We are going to get started. So we're going to start off with some libation. Okay, not right now. Come on, please don't sit over there. Omi tutu, omi tutu, omi tutu, tutu ori, tutu emi, tutu aye, tutu laboye. Ibashe Olodumare Abatare Reka Ye Batiwa Ojo Batiwa Room, Baler Gary Afoko Yeri, Barumla Leri Ipini, by Ikbarum Ojo Kotun, by Ikbarum Ojo Kosin, by Kanli Ni Urin War Rumale, Iba Akora, Iba Asheda, Awania Afinjureje, Majua Bobo Egone Dele Mi Dele Se, Olodumare, Ibaye by Toruni, Baye by Toruni, Bawamba Tunu, Baulua, Baba Odubola Futamisha, Iba Ojubon, Bokuno, Marahoj Kofizanu. Iba pojito nochto vizunu, iba ielo shashango weniolo, iba shesaleko, iba oba sejman and I for me the first, iba oba sejman for me the second, iba luomi fata ifa birmo, iba peti bifale ifa birmo, iba bogboy deli fa birmo, iba bogboy deli amushan, iba albomola b orisha, iba Olokomeji Village, Nigeria, iba Abiokuto, Nigeria, iba ile ife, iba Oyotoju Village, South Carolina, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Orisha Kosi Iku, Kosi Futibo, Kosi Ofo, Kosi Wahala, Fuma Alafia, Fuma Ire, Fuma Owo, Fuma Iwapole. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Greetings.
Reading.
Okay. Today we are going to be talking about and discussing Egungun. Egungun is the Yoruba terminology. Come up here with everybody else, please. That actually means Egun actually means bones. So, from an African perspective, if you think about Black Southern speech, if you think about African speech, if you think about Caribbean speech, whenever you say something twice, you know that emphasizes it. So the term Egun means bones. So Egungun, um, if we were to translate it literally, would be bones upon bones. But Egungun is actually honored ancestors. Okay, so it's like bones, bones. You know. So if somebody is small, then you say they're small. If they're really tiny, then you say small, small. You know, if you want a small amount of something. So this is what always follows in how we speak here. African Americans speak, Caribbean speak, West Africans, no matter what language we're speaking, we do that same thing for emphasis. So that's just to help you understand the word. So we're going to begin by learning two songs. When you sing in the tradition, the caller ignites everybody else, but it is the response that calls the spirit. Okay, so it's those who respond that are responsible for actually calling the deity into the space. So we're gonna start off. Let me see, which one do I want to do first? I know y'all used to be scared of this one. Maybe y'all are not no more. This one is pretty simple. Well, the girls will probably remember it. It's a pretty simple beat. A robber, a robber, a robber, goon, goon, a robber. A robber, a robber, a robber, goon, goon, a robber. So that one is just actually Orvet or Riki. So you have Oriki, you have Oran. So Oriki is just when you say the praise name of the deity. So this one is in Oriki. So Rabara is one of the praise names of Egungun. So that one is pretty simple. The other one is a little more complex. So that one is Yoruba. This one that I'm about to do is Yoruba, probably by way of Cuba. And the one we'll do next, I'll go ahead and do three since the robber ride is so short and easy. And the one we'll do after that is New African Vodun, created by Matahochi and the Nochi, Ibarra Tarun. So the next one is, and it's a little more complex, but wa wa re, wa ma, wa sum, wa ma. Awa o ma le awo bobo egun kale. Now this one, you say that refrain, and then you guys' response is actually only egun bale o egun. I'm sorry, it's wale o wale o egun wale o egun wale o. So I'll do the call and I'll point to you guys when it's time for the response. Do you guys remember that one? Because we didn't do that one frequently. Yeah. Au wa wa re. Au wa ma. Awa o sum. Awa o ma. Awa o ma le awo bobo egun kawe. Au wa re. Au wa ma. Awa o sum. Awa o ma. Awa o ma le awo bobo egun kawe. Okay, so then y'all. Egun wale o, egun wale o, egun wale o, egun wale o. Take it up. Egun wale o, egun wale o, Egun wale o, Egun wale o, wa ore, wa o ma, wa o sun, wa o ma, le awo bobo egun kale. So, Egun wale o, 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 Egun wale o. Okay, so this one is as I said, probably out of Cuba. This was one of the first Risha songs I learned, one of the first Egun songs I learned. It more than likely means we are looking for you to the left and the right. We are looking for you to call you to the house. And of course, Egun Waleo is Egun, come to the house. Wale is come to the house. Okay. Even the rapper, singer Wale, because he's Yoruba, comes to the house. Whatever. I don't know what the first part of his name is. You know what the first Omo Wale? Oh, the child comes to the house. Okay. So yeah. Wale is come to the house. So this one is a song that you sing. This one and actually the one that we just sang, Arabara, are songs that you sing when the Egungun Masquerade is coming. And you sing this to incite that spirit to, come forth and continue to come from the spirit realm. Okay. Remember I said it's the response that pulls the spirit from the spirit realm. So when we're talking about Orin and Oriki, Orin is a song. Oriki is, like I said, you just saying the praise name. From the perspective of our ancestors, there are certain sounds and certain words that excite the deities. So when you're talking about Orin and Oriki, that's what you're talking about. So we may sometimes feel that the songs would always be a praise or something like that. Most of the time, when you're talking about songs from a Yoruba perspective, it's not even necessarily that. Most of the time, it is more like a conversation, like what I just said. We're calling you, we're looking for you. Where are you? We're looking for you on the left. We're looking for you on the right. Where are you? We need you to come to the house. It is not always a praise. If we think about one of my favorite Oshun songs is Alade. It's not a praise. It's just one of her praise names. And then you're just listing her attributes because you're not necessarily talking on the right. Where are you? We need you to come to the house. It is not always a praise. If we think about one of my favorite Oshun songs is Alade. It's not a praise. It's just Mama Lynn, you have to mute yours.
Okay, let's see.
Not
Okay.
But hey, so it is more about exciting that energy. And for when we talk about praise, that is generally something that is done during Egungun, which is the Yoruba word for what we would consider prayer. It's actually a different thing, just to put it in the context that people can understand. Okay. Now the next song is New African Version. This one was created by Masquerade. I'm assuming it is a reframing of some sort of Negro spiritual, but it's not a Negro spiritual that I'm familiar with. I don't know. But this one should be a little bit simple. Y'all already know. Down here, ancestors waiting on you. Down here, ancestors waiting on you. Down here, ancestors, and we waiting on you. Can't do nothing till you come. We down here, Baba Malcolm, waiting on you. Down here, Baba Malcolm, waiting on you. Down here, Baba Malcolm, and we're waiting on you. Can't do nothing till you come. We down here, Matahochi, waiting on you. Down here, Matahochi, waiting on you. Down here, Matahochi, waiting on you. Can't do nothing till you come. We're down here, Mama Nochi, waiting on you. Down here, Mama Nochi, waiting on you. Down here, Mama Nochi, waiting on you. Can't do nothing till you come. Down here, Kabiesi, waiting on you. Down here, Kabiesi, waiting on you. Down here, Kabiesi, waiting on you. Can't do nothing till you come. And we won't do nothing till you come. Can't do nothing till you come. Ashe. I remember that song being created and being just in the moment of, I don't even remember what kind of ritual we were doing. And Baba just, deciding that that's what he was going to do. He would sit over to the side with his cane and I'm sure there are those who knew him when he was younger because he was a drummer and, he would dance and stuff or whatever. Him and Kabiesu were both drummers and, artists. So I'm sure that when they were younger, they would drum and actually dance. So by the time I met him, by the time I met the first Kabiesu, they were both older. So when stuff like that was happening, they would just sit. So I remember we were doing some rituals in somebody's basement or somebody's garage, and Matahochi would always bring out the funk throne, and you sit it to the side, for Baba to be, and he had his cane. And I just remember he started with that, and we were like, okay. We just chimed in. And like I said, I don't know, is it from a gospel song that you can recall?
When I first heard it,
It's got that vibe.
it does, but I can't remember any melody that had
Right.
the words and that
Right.
together.
Because he was a musician, sometimes he would just catch a vibe and he would just make, so the most of the New African Vodou songs that we sing, it's just for stuff that the Matahochi and the Nochi just made. If we're singing anything to a deity that's not an Orisha, a Dambala song, anything like that, they just did that. They just sat and just came up with that. And so that has become part of our tradition from New African Vodou.
Has anybody ever compiled and recorded them?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. So we could do that. I mean, I have shared them, I know, with my brother in DC in Maryland. He recorded me singing some of them, but I don't know, outside of that, I don't think so.
Okay.
But that would be a worthwhile undertaking. Yeah, because he created some he created some for each deity that I can think of right off the top of my head. So they did a few little ones for each. And I remember just being able to be at a bembe and to hear Matahochi wouldn't really sing. He would sing up to the side, but to hear the Nochi, lead the she wouldn't once they decided that they were practicing Vodou, they didn't really do anything. They didn't really sing or do anything for Orisha. So if we were at a Yemanja Bembe, then Nochi would come and sing for Nayate. And just to be at the Bembe and to just see Nochi get down, and she would have on all silver, she'd be in complete Yemanja glory, just looking like she just walked up out of the ocean. She'd get a Shankare and just break it down for Nayate. You'd be like, no! Anytime I hear the Nayate sounds, it's just, the music of the Nochi doing, like, wow, it was such, and not even knowing at the time, that's just your godparents, not just, but in your mind, this is your godparents, so this is the experience that you're having. And so it's like after the fact, and now you're like, wow, I was right in the middle of history and didn't realize it. It was just mom and dad doing their thing. That's what it felt like. That's what the family was like. So those three melodies that we just dealt with are melodies specifically for the ancestors, specifically for Egungun. Um, we all know scientifically, just from what is that? Maybe eighth grade. What is that? Eighth grade biology or something. The matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. Right? Nothing ever ceases to be. So, from that perspective comes the understanding of Egungun. Okay, Egungun is the energy of your bloodline ancestors. So when you speak of Egungun, nationalistically, we can elevate ancestors. But when each individual speaks of Egungun, you are specifically speaking of your bloodline. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about the ancestors of your family. Okay. Um, from the Yoruba perspective, from the West African perspective, I should say, you incarnate into the same group of people. Okay, you stay with this group. This is essential because each group has specific tasks that they do to make the society complete. Okay. Um, I guess the easiest way to explain that would be I'll go to Senegambia. I'll go to the Mandinka people, the Malinke people. And as those of us who are dancers and drummers know that the person who keeps the history in that group of people is called the Jali, right? This is from the Old Mali Empire. So we know that person is called the Jali, Djeli, for people who are listening, you can look it up. The Jali, most of the time we only think about the Jali as a drummer or a singer, right? But the drummer and the singer sing the history. They are the historians of it, okay? In that group of people, if you do not come from a family of Jalis, you are not a singer or a dancer or drummer. Now, I have never met anybody from Senegambia who can't drum. They have the ability to drum, and it sounds good, but more than likely they are not going to as a profession. Even if you ask, can you come and play the Kuturo at this thing? They will know how to play it, but they will not do it. And when you ask them why, they'll say, I'm not from a Jolly family. And they just don't. You see what I'm saying? So it is similar to a Western understanding of a yield, but it is deeper than that, in that the understanding is that what is in your DNA is passed down. So this family is responsible for keeping the history of the nation. And that's it. These families. And so that's what these families do. Okay? So you have families, the family that I am a member of in Abiokuta. This family is an Egungun family. That is the Orisha, that is that rules that family. So they are responsible for keeping the mysteries of Egungun. Okay? And that is it. That's what they do. Doesn't mean that they don't know how to worship Oshun or worship Oya or Yemanja or anything of that nature. Also don't mean that they don't go to church or to the mosque or something like that. What in modern day Nigeria doesn't mean any of that. But it means this lineage is responsible for knowing that mystery and for interacting with that deity in the ways that society needs it to happen. So this is why my Baba there is the one that does the night of prediction in that area, because he is the head of Egungun in that area, and his family is responsible. And when he becomes an ancestor, then it will go to one of my brothers, and he will become responsible for doing that. So Egungun is an understanding of that. You will always from our perspective, incarnate into that line for those reasons. Is because these are the qualities that you have. This is what is in your DNA. This is what you are here to do. So if you think about it, families do certain things, right? Certain talents you see in certain families, and it's mind blowing when you step back and look at it, right? My mother was a writer. I love to write. My children love to write. My mother she loved to draw. She was a visual artist. And I watched them. I'm not bad at it, but I'm not as good of a visual artist as she was. But I can draw something and people will be like, that's good, you know. But my children, when I watch them, I'm like, wow, that talent, it really is just there, you know. My mother taught us when we were little because she was good at it, the art of public. So me and all of my brothers and sisters are good at that. My children are good at that. You know, we're used to being in front of crowds. So we the talents are passed down, and that's just the truth of it. It's just in your DNA. What you see in your family, what is prevalent in your family, it will be the same for you. So this is how you can see that you stay within this group. Okay, this was part of the reason that the Ma'afa was so devastating for us and for our ancestors, because not having that face to face of what it is that we did. What kind of trade was it that my people did? Which group of these people did I come from? So we created different ways to deal with that. But we did not ever let go of that understanding of incarnating into the same family, incarnating back into this same family. Okay. This is why if you're from a small little southern town like me, and I don't know whether or not people still do this. I'm pushing half a century, so people might not even do this if they live in Tennessee no more. But when a baby is born, you take it to Big Mama, and Big Mama will tell you which ancestor that is. Oh, that ain't nobody but so and so. You tap the baby like that. That ain't nobody but so and so. Ah, she done came back. She back. Big Mama laugh or whatever. She tell you how pretty the baby is. Oh, you did a good job. All those things that you need to know as a woman to get back to yourself. What kind of girdle to buy, and all that kind of stuff that you need to do to get back to that. She'll tell you that. But you take the baby, and that's the tradition. That's generally the first person that you go to after you have the baby. You take the baby to the oldest living woman in the family, and they hold it and they love up on it and everything, and they tell you who it is. And it's not, you don't say that. It's not spoken, but it's just said. It's just, she'll tell you who it is, and that's who you will be, for your entire life, and in the little small place where I'm from, and nobody will forget that. So we have a full expectation that those family members are coming back. We did not leave that expectation when we came over here. We didn't lose that expectation. We continue to have that full expectation. And even if it is not as intact as it was for me and my family when I was a child, it's still there, right? Still experience that. No one will ever stop saying, oh, how much he acts just like Uncle so-and-so. Oh my goodness, she looks just like so. That will never leave, right? That continues because our spiritual self understands that's what's going on. So we don't ever let that go. So you incarnate into the same family. Because matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, then they are continually in what we saw and what we experience as a cycle. Okay? So your matter and energy, that is you, part of it is here in this life, experiencing this life. Part of it is in the ancestral realm, or what we call or room, continuing to experience that. Part of it is part of the cosmic forces, experiencing that. And it is completely always going through this cycle of being in the spirit realm, being physical, and being cosmic, and continuing to go through this cycle. This is what it means to exist, is to exist on all of these planes simultaneously. This is why you are connected to everything around you. This is why you are able to understand other people when they're speaking to you. Understand what's going on with the world because you have a connection to it. So you're connected to it on a physical level, but you're also connected to everyone around you on what we would consider a mental level in a Western world, but anywhere else that would be considered a spiritual level, a spiritual connection. So this is part of understanding Egungun. So when you go through the process of life and the hope, when your mother and father bring you into existence, the hope is that you live a long life, right? That you live a long and rich life full of many, many experiences. So you go through the process of life. You live this long, rich life full of many experiences. And then the time comes that this particular vessel needs to be recycled, right? You can't use nothing forever. Right? So this vessel decides, whoo, okay, I'm done. You know, I got holes in me, I'm creaking, I'm doing it, I'm gonna go and get recycled. So where did this vessel come from? Where did the stuff come from that makes this vessel? Earth Mother Onila, right? So in order to get recycled, our ancestors have always put this thing back in Earth Mother Onila, right? Put this back in Earth Mother Onila. The force that animated this then returns to a room to be recycled as well. Okay, so you go to a room then to get what it is that you need. This particular vessel, as I always say, grew from your spirit. Look at your spirit as a seed. Look at your ori as a seed that grew this thing. When the child is in the womb of the mother, if you pay attention to how we as human beings develop, that ori is one of the first things to develop, right? Because that's the seed. Everything else grows out of that. We look like little disgusting tadpoles. And we mostly still look like that when we get so it grew out of that seed. So this particular vessel is still understood to carry the power of the person who was in it forever. So in Yoruba tradition, you bury your ancestors in the floor of your house. Okay? Because you don't ever want to lose that connection. This is why, even here, we tap the staff on the ground to contact the ancestors because we have a memory of them being buried in the floor of the house. So you don't ever lose contact. That is not a thing that happens. It's right there. You can always access it. This is why we go down to pray because it's right there in the earth. It's right there. It hasn't gone anywhere. So you understand that that animating force, part of that animating force has gone somewhere else to do whatever it needs to do there. But you fully understand that this package still held so much of that energy that you have to always be able to have contact with that piece as well. Okay. When I was in Nigeria in 2000, um, because of Christianity and Islam coming in, of course, Islam came in before Christianity. Um, I didn't see many places where that was the case. But in the homes where that was the case, the place where the people had been buried was what was like the front porch, for lack of a better term. I guess we probably call it a gallery. And it was had tiles, you know. But you would know that the ancestors were buried there because on the walls where the tiles were would be a picture of the people. They would have painted a beautiful picture and written in Oriki, oh mother, blah, 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 grandfather, blah, 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 blah. And then this still was the porch that you did everyday porch stuff on. So, it would still be chairs out there. That would still be where you sat in the cool and took your drink, whatever. So it's still everyday porch stuff because is there ever going to be a time when your grandmother doesn't want to be participating in just regular family life? No. You always keep her participating. So the way that we do that here is that every time we eat, we give a little bit of food to our ancestors. No matter where you are, even when you're eating out, just put a little bit to the side because they're going to participate. Remember, it's one line. It's one line that's going to continue to incarnate into each other. So that thing doesn't then drift off and is over here doing something else that is not connected to you. It continues to be intimately connected in your life. That never goes away. And for me, Once I got the full understanding of that, that is such a comfort. You know, when you have lost that physical contact, it's a comfort to know that as close as that person has always been, they remain that close. Your connection remains that close. And they interact with you still just as closely as they always have. You don't have to ever lose or leave any of the parts of that. Okay. There is no, the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So the ancestral realm and the earthly realm, remember, are like this. So the ancestral realm is what lifts us up, and we are here on top of that. And there's no line in between those. So there's constant interaction, constant flow. Remember, it's a calabash, and everything that exists is all on the inside. So we're all existing in there together. So there are planes of existence that are in the same place at the same time. And I mean, we are Black, so we're always having interaction with those other planes, right? That's not abnormal for us. It's not abnormal for us to see an ancestor. It's not abnormal for us to, you know, hear an ancestor. I can be taking a shower sometime and I'll smell my mother's perfume, you know, so I know, oh, she's here, you know, whatever. That's completely normal for Black people. It's when I give lectures to people who may not be as open to the tradition, that's what I start with. I'm like, don't look upon this as something foreign, because there's a Black person. These are experiences that we have all the time. You know, you see this person, at the very least have a dream about this person. Generally, we see them, we still hear them, we can still feel their presence. All this stuff is normal, you know, and so you know that the planes of existence overlap. You know that because you experience it as overlap, you know. So that is how you are constantly interacting with your Egungun. That is the expectation. Okay, so Egungun is an Orisha. Okay, the force of ancestors that exist in the ancestral realm is an Orisha in and of itself. Remember that Orisha means selected heads. So this is the head. This is the what would we call it? Conglomeration of this energy. So Egungun is an Orisha, and is given that same kind of respect, that same kind of reverence. In Nigeria, the way that we honor Egungun is in the Assam. We make beautiful masquerades for Egungun, and we honor them by dancing in these masquerades. Cloth, from an ancient perspective, is a representation of society. Every original cloth, you have the kente bag right there, is woven very meticulously with little bitty threads, right? So that is a metaphor for society. So when we take the time to take something that takes that long to make and make this huge, gigantic 12, 15-foot cloth thing, then that shows how connected this being is to our society. It has a piece of everybody on it. And we're giving so much of this fabric that costs so much to make and is so labor intensive to create. We're giving it to this being, because that then puts all of our energy into that being, right? It shows the reverence that we have for our ancestors. It shows the importance that we have for our ancestors, and the fact that the ancestors then embody this thing and dance for us shows the connection that they still feel for us. So the Asan cloth, and I wish I had an example. I used to have a little Egungun doll. It was a little thing with the Asan cloth on it, but I don't have it anymore. I think I lost it in the fire, I think. But it's a big draped cloth. It will remind you, it reminded me at one point of like how Europeans show ghosts, right? So if you could think about that same, but if all of that cloth is African, you know, like an African patchwork. And of course, it ain't no eyes. They don't need to see like that. You know, they ain't studying it, you know. But there are all different types of masquerades that are used for Egungun. So you use the cloth masquerade most often for Egungun, but you can also use the raffia masquerade for Egungun. That's not necessarily as prevalent in Yoruba culture. And this cloth will do amazing things. It will do amazing things. It will twirl in a way that begins to look otherworldly. If it is an Egungun that speaks, it will speak with an otherworldly voice. And we were raised in what's called a modern society, right? So we are not impressed by beings under cloth twirling, right? They don't impress us, So I remember the first time after I was initiated into Egungun, we were going to have a ritual for Egungun here, and Egungun was going to come out to the community, And women and children are not supposed to be around when Egungun comes out. But I'm a modern woman, gynocentric, Nobody gonna tell me, where I'm gonna be and not be around. I'm initiated into a gung. Nobody tell me I'm supposed to be up in here, So you there or whatever. And it's America, so nobody really is going to tell you to leave, And then I'm alone. This is my temple. Everybody who's gonna tell me to leave, So if I sit there, people's gonna be like, she's sitting there. Nobody's gonna tell me. I don't know why she's still sitting there, but ain't nobody gonna say nothing. They can't say nothing. So you there. You hear, the spectacles. As African people, we do everything as a spectacle. Now, we don't ever do nothing small, y'all. We don't do nothing small. So before Egungun comes out, Egungun makes a lot of noise. He beats on the door, and I do, you hear this noise. And, of course, I'm still, it's like, Egungun coming, Egungun, do your thing, whatever. So then finally, Egungun busts in, And the men are trying to hold it back, because all this is the spectacle. It's supposed to incite, a certain thing. The men are holding it back. No, this, so there, you're watching it. And then you guys were like, y'all were maybe 7 or 8. Yeah. Y'all were maybe 7 or 8, but I know Charmin and Fasha were little. So of course I had to, get them. Of course somebody, immediately wants to nurse. They get terrified. They just want to nurse. So you nursing somebody, you still watching or whatever, and then no. I'm about to get to that part. And so then the energy that fills the room is what makes you, as a woman, decide that you're going to tip on that. It is not, it's funny because when you try to, I was watching on YouTube, there was a beautiful video of, it was a piece of burlap laid on the ground. This was in Nigeria. And the guy was like, Egungun is going to come up out of the ground and fill up this burlap, And they showed you that there was like no hole or whatever in the ground. They put the burlap down, and then you just saw this thing, doing this, And when you are watching it on a video, then of course you have all of these modern speculations. Oh, it's just a so-and-so. This is what people were commenting on YouTube. Oh, this ain't nothing but a so-and-so. It ain't nothing but a song. And every Nigerian was like, this is real. If you were there, you would not doubt. When you feel the energy, when the energy of Egungun entered the room after the spectacle of Egungun, then I myself and every woman in there and every child moved ourselves on to the back. The energy of it lets you know, yeah, I'm going to move on to the back. I'm not going to stay around here. Now, when Egungun comes in Nigeria, and I don't know, Oyatunji, they may do this in America. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that. But the ancestors are the moral compass of the community. I always say, if you would not do it in front of your great-grandmother, then you don't have any business doing it. The ancestors are the moral compass. They are the ones that tell us the proper way to live life, the proper path to take, right? So in Nigeria, Egungun runs with switches and whips. And the men who have been inappropriate get beat completely down. And if you are in the way, you get some of it too. Which was how spankings went in my mama's house anyway. If you was in the way, you gonna catch a lick too. So it's best for you not to be in the way, right? So when Egungun comes out in Nigeria, the women and children, we sit on the porch and we watch that spectacle in the streets. But all of the men and boys love to run with Egungun, you know. And the men who have been the most foul, they come home just marked up.
Oh, wow.
But every man come home with a little mark because they got in the way. They got in the way. They was running with Egungun, but they don't. It's not. You know, nobody is like, ooh, you know, it's not how you take your spanking like a grown up and you go on back in the house and you run with Egungun the next day. The Egungun festival is days long. So you go run with them again the next day, you know. So luckily, you know, I had seen a Egungun festival in the United States before I went to Nigeria. So I didn't even try to get out in that, you know. Out in that nonsense. I stayed calmly up on the porch and watched the Egungun. But the vibration, the beautiful, strong vibration of the ancestors will make you understand that the energy is volatile in a way that you as a woman carrying the vessel of a womb do not necessarily want to invoke. So you step onto the side. You feel compelled to step to the side. It is a frightening energy. And that's good. It's supposed to be that way, right? That's a good thing. It's a thing that it's not something that you can teach. You have to experience it. You have to be there to feel it, to then completely understand why your ancestors said, go sit in the back when this is happening. You can't teach it. So I'm telling you about it now, but if you weren't there, then you're like, oh, whatever, you know. You're respecting me because I'm the one that's saying it. If you haven't felt the energy, then you can't completely understand how it feels. And in Nigeria, there are Egungun of all ages. There's little children Egungun, you know, and then there's big, massive, like I said, 10, 15, 20 foot tall. And there's no way to physically explain how this thing is being moved, what's in it, how are people making it, you know, because you're assuming there's a person under there. How many people under there? Somebody sitting on somebody's shoulder? Are they still walking? What's going on? But when you feel the energy, you're like, probably not none of this is going on. So you leave it alone. You leave it alone. When you right, you be like, I'm gonna be in the back, noticing it from afar. So I don't even really want to know. So when you experience it, you feel that spirit of the ancestors. You completely and totally feel that. So when this is another way that we can see how devastating the Ma'afa was to our ancestors who are over here, but also the strength, right? The tenacity of the tradition. It's for me always completely amazing. So that is Egungun as it is practiced in Nigeria. In the United States, in the North, when we worship Egungun, we have many different ways that we revere the ancestors. So the most common way is to have an ancestral altar. Your ancestral altar should be close to the ground. There are some altars that like being high up. The ancestral altar is not one of these. Your ancestral altar can even be on the floor. It should be in a main corner of your home. The colors that are utilized, remember everything has a vibration. So the color vibration that you use can be either purple, this is for Oya, because she is the mother of the ancestors, or white. Everything white, no other colors besides that, okay? In the United States, because this may just be in the West, because we kind of lost that tradition of the Asan, then we create ancestral staffs. So you get a nice, sturdy, tall branch, and you tie pieces of cloth, hangs down in a way that looks like a big, massive cloth bead. Okay, so we created the tradition of the ancestral staff here on this side. And when you speak to your ancestors, you use this staff to bang on the ground, right? To invoke them, to get their attention. When we were here, when we got here, we got to this side, our understanding was that when we passed away, when we became ancestors, we would return to Africa. And so up until here in the United States, if my memory of folklore is correct, up until around the 1920s, it seems, the 1930s, a common saying was, if I don't see you anymore in this life, I will see you in Africa. Still among Black people in the 1920s, because the understanding, this was the last time I saw Zora writing about that, she was in Harlem. This was Black people in Harlem saying that to each other. I mean, it's just beautiful, the retention, and I'm sure that was class based, of course, us talented 10th people wasn't saying that, to nobody. We might have been thinking it, we was too bougie to say something about seeing somebody in Africa. But the folklore that she was collecting in Harlem and in Florida, this was something that she encountered. Was it Black people still saying it to each other? I thought that's what I'm saying. The tenacity of the tradition is amazing. The way that our ancestors held on to that. But here so we hold that particular understanding. The reason that we would say that our soul has to return to Africa is because of our understanding of what happens to this physical vessel, right? This would have to return to that soil. There's no way that the reactivation that we needed, we wouldn't believe that could be done here. The actual place, the actual soil is that important. The Oluwo, my spiritual father in Nigeria, does not leave the city of Abeokuta because it is important for him to be in that place. If he leaves that place, it is believed that calamity will happen. So when he needs something done outside of Abeokuta, he sends someone else to do it because he doesn't leave from there. So that is the type of understanding of what happens and how this physical vessel is connected to Earth Mother. So our ancestors understood that connection couldn't be broken. Even if we were here, they were like, the rest of this has to fly back to Africa. And depending upon where you were, they would say Africa or they would say Guinea. This is, happening back in Guinea. And when the ancestral priests, because if you have an ancestral altar, then you can have an ancestral altar. Everyone can create and put up their own ancestral altar, but you can also have your ancestral altar consecrated. So when your altar is consecrated, the ancestral priest or priestess calls the spirits of your ancestors into specific vessels that you then place on your altar. And when we call them, we are taught to call them from Guinea. That's where we're calling them from. Even if it is your recent ancestors, we are understanding that we are drawing them from Guinea, and that's the term that I was trying to use. So it is still completely and totally active and alive in our memories that is where the spirits are going. Okay, so you worship your ancestors at your altar. You understand your ancestors to be your moral guide. Understand yourself to be a link in that unending chain of your lineage. It does not stop. Understand that you, because you are a link in that chain, have complete and total access to the information that your ancestors had. If you think about, let's just say, ancient Kemet and the kind of chemistry and sciences that they had, according to them, the way that they were able to track stars and the movement of stars over hundreds of years was through continuing to talk to those ancestors. Now, where was it when you were alive? And that ancestor would say, oh, it was here. And this ancestor would say, oh, it was right here. So this is how they were tracking the movements of the stars. This is what they said in their, historical historical notes. Modern times, John S. Mbidi, modern African writer. He wrote African Religions and Philosophy. He had a particular piece that he wanted to put in his book about traditional worship that he could not remember. But he remembered that it was his grandfather that had told him that. So before he went to sleep that night, he invoked his grandfather. So I need you to come and remind me of what that thing was that you told me. And when he had a dream, his grandfather sat at the foot of his bed and told him the thing. So you don't experience a loss of anything. And so I always tell people nothing is lost. You know, nothing is lost. No contact is lost. And I don't think that I myself use it as much for big things like that, but I use it for little things. You can't remember a recipe in the kitchen. Grandma, what was it that y'all put in that now? You know, when I'm in life situations that I know my mother was in or I know my grandmother was in, then I'll be like, yeah, I don't know what to do. What did y'all do when y'all were in this situation? Like, how did y'all work this out? You know, and then you get your answer. When my children are very, very ill, you know, it's always my grandmother that comes. You know, my grandmother, not my mother. My grandmother will always appear. You know, when my children are ill, I always make them sleep with me. So they'll be in the bed with me, and then I'll look up and there'll be grandma standing by the side of the bed. You know, okay. I guess they're gonna be okay. You know? But my grandmother was she was not like a kitcheny cooking type of woman. Like that wasn't what she did. But she had all kind of herbs and stuff that she would give us, you know, when we were little. So when you saw her in the kitchen, you knew that you was about to have to drink something nasty. You know, because she wasn't gonna cook. All the food in her house was already made. She had that tuna fish that was already made. That's what she was. Black people didn't buy this stuff when I was little. Ready made tuna fish. My grandmother had stuff like croutons. She bought them little cookies with the brown edges. Black people didn't buy. Black people made cookies when I was little. Y'all don't understand. I'm from the country. People made this stuff. No, if you buy tuna fish in the can, you make your own tuna fish. You go buy no ready-made Miss Grissom's tuna fish. This is the kind of stuff my grandmother bought. Right? She didn't cook. So if you heard her in that kitchen, you was like, you know, she was doing something. You was about to have to drink something. Generally something to clean you out. You know, grandmother's love for your colon to be clean. And now that I was someone's grandmother, I understand. What did he eat? You know, that's what I asked about my grandson. What did he eat? He could be over here doing something that would not seem to an ungrandmotherly eye to be related to food. That's because y'all don't know. Y'all don't got the grandmotherly eye. And what do I ask my daughter? What did you feed him? He know he's doing something that would seem like it's just what children do. You done fed him something. That's that grandmotherly eye, you know. So my grandmother had that as well. So when my children are ill, she's the person that appears without me having to call. But know that your connection is such that it's never broken. It's never lost. Whatever it is that you need, you have access to it. We are in the unique position as African people to not know, right? We can only go, on my mother's side, we can only go up to my grandma Ellen, who was the last person in our family lineage to be enslaved. We don't know past her. We don't know what her mother's name was. We don't know who her father was, what his name. We don't know any of that. And Southern Black people, like West Africans everywhere, you know, are very secretive. You know, our woe is a part of our culture. There's some stuff you just don't speak of. Akishe is a thing not done, a thing not spoken of, right? So you can't ask. It is rude to ask someone, especially who their father is. That is a rude question where I'm from. You do not ask people that. If you don't know, then you go along with whatever is being said. You don't ask that. So we don't know from that. You know, we don't know from that kind of secrecy. But then, of course, being descendants of the Ma'afa, we don't know because measures were put into place for us not to know, right? But we can always ask. You can always ask. You can ask your ancestors. I would like to know. I need to know, you know, exactly where it is that I come from. I need for you to put things in front of me, or you can just come and tell me, you know, where I come from, who was this ancestor, you know, that came before her. How will I get information about that? Where should I look? You can always say nothing is lost. Nothing is lost. There's not a fear that we have to have. So when you think about the connection not being lost, also remember that the information is not lost either. So you revere and honor your ancestors because as a person of African descent, you cannot be sane if you do not. This is how we maintain what would be called in the Western world good psychological health by our connection with our ancestors. by that constant communication with your ancestors, by that reliance upon your ancestors, and paying attention to how they live their lives. That's the only way that you will know what the pitfalls are going to be for you. There's no other way to know because every family is different, right? But if you know my family has a propensity to do this, then you know where your pitfalls are. And don't fool yourself and be like, well, yeah, I know my grandmama did that and my mama did that. Every sister and auntie I got, I ain't gonna never do that. You can't get away from DNA. I always tell people you can't fight with destiny. You can't run from destiny. So once you see that there's a propensity in your family, take it seriously and be conscious of it and live like you know that that is what you are most likely to do. Just live like that. It's much simpler to live like that than to convince yourself that you are some new type of member of this thousands of year old lineage. Just don't even worry about it. Just go ahead and say, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. By the same token, you know what you all's strengths are. This is what our strengths are. This is the area of our strengths. This is what, you know, the women in my family do. This is what the men in my family do. And I tell people that all the time. I say all the time, I don't know. I don't have those kind of experiences because I don't come from people like that. I don't come from women who have ever done that. So I have no idea how to navigate that. My entire lineage has done this, and this is what I'm doing. So that other experience on the other side, I'm not familiar with it. So know exactly what you all are good for. Know exactly what are the pitfalls for you and your people. This is how you live in reverence and honor to your ancestors. This is how you keep that. And think about from a political perspective. I taught my children to always look at every political thing from the perspective of your ancestors. If you're looking at past political things, if you're looking at present political things, look at it from the perspective of your ancestors. Because from the perspective of Europeans, manifest destiny was a wonderful thing, right? They came over to America and they saw it and they said, this is our destiny to go all the way from the side of one sea to the where the other sea is. They said that was their manifest there, and whatever they did, they were manifesting that destiny, right? So for them, that was a wonderful thing. Europe was being havoc was being wreaked upon it by plagues and all sort of horrible diseases. Most of the population had been decimated by horrible diseases. So we are taught that these people were explorers. These people were actually running away from the horrors of life in Europe. It was dirty, it was filthy, nothing grows there, it's not fertile. So of course you get to some beautiful subtropical and tropical place like this. Yeah. You are gonna manifest your destiny, right? You're gonna stay right on here. And as soon before the human Europeans even got off the ships, the indigenous people here, my ancestors here, had already started to be infected by those diseases because the rats got off the ships before the human beings did. So those European diseases were brought before they even saw the first European by those rats that were on the ship. So if we were to look, when we look at history from a European perspective, we are taught in school that manifest destiny was good, right? Plant your flag in the soil and bam, this is yours, and woo, explorers and what else they got? Conquistadors, which means conqueror. But we wasn't taught that. The conquistadors. And what's the other name for them? There's another name that they call them. Is conquistador Spanish or Portuguese?
Spanish.
It's a Portuguese name for them too that won't come to my mind because explorers was the English name. Conquistadors is Spanish. It was a Portuguese name too that we were taught when we were children. I don't know if they teach it as much now. You know, I'm old, as I always say. But we taught, yeah, we rallied behind and Magellan and Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus. This is what we're taught, right? Because that's the perspective of those European ancestors. What's the perspective of our ancestors on these things? So when you think about politics, you should always be looking at things from the perspective of your ancestors. Because looking at it from the perspective of your ancestors is looking at it from your perspective. Having a relationship, an intact relationship with your ancestors helps you and puts you squarely in a position of pure, unadulterated self-love. right? There is no way to hate the shape of your nose if it is the same way that your mother's nose was shaped. And if that's what you're focusing on, a relationship that you continue to have with your mother, right? There's no way to hate the way that your hair grows out of your head. If you can look and see that your great grandfather's hair did that exact same thing, had this same old taggy hairline, that's just weak, can't hold nothing. But if you can look and see, you can't even be mad at the hairline. You like, it's just this the hairline we got. You know, these the foreheads we got. We smart though. We smart. This big old head is what we got. We real intelligent. We put a lot of information in there. But you can't dislike it. You can't dislike it if you are focusing on who came before you and what they contributed to your family. You cannot sit in a place of self-hate if that is your focus. It's not possible. And they're not going to allow it. Because those are the questions that they're going to ask. And I ask my children, Ashabi looks just like me. And she'll say, I don't look good in so-and-so. So what you say? You mean I don't look good in it? Because I wear that all the time. I ask my children that. And your ancestors will say that to you. Your ancestors will also fix family issues. Any issue that you're having with your family. If you can't fix it, if you try to fix it and you can't, then you can go and tell them. Me and my mother always had a very tumultuous relationship. It was always antagonistic. I think from probably before I was even actually born, it was antagonistic from the womb. She has a huge personality. I have a huge personality. And the Odu says 2 big noses can never kiss, right? So it's always antagonistic, right? So once I, was a mother and had children, was a wife or whatever, then I wanted to, because prior to that, you were a teenager, you don't care about smoothing out that relationship with your mother. But once I became a full adult, I wanted to smooth the relationship out. But by this time, I had been so, wild and ridiculous and disrespectful to the woman that she wasn't necessarily as interested in smoothing it out as I was. So I had to go to my grandmother and say, yeah. Could you intercede on my behalf? Help me to figure this out. And what my grandmother did was made me aware of my mother's reasons for doing certain things that she had done in my life that I had disagreed with. And once my grandmother from the spirit realm made me aware of those things, then I was able to be sweet and loving and kind and not be disrespectful. And of course, once I could, approach my mother like that, then she was fine. We were able to have a better relationship. So your ancestors help you to maintain a sweet and peaceful relationship with your family without you having to figure out things that in general don't have anything to do with you. You can't figure out stuff from before you were born. You just can't. Even once you're a grown woman and you understand it, once you're a grown man and you understand, you still can't figure it out, right? You still can't fix it. But the ancestors can go into anybody's dream, right? And be like, now that baby loves you now. Go on and do the songs, all right? What my grandmother said to me, I will give you her exact words from my altar as I sat in front of it, crying and making a spectacle as we as Africans do. She said, your mother gave you the absolute best that she had to give. And I could make peace with everything else, right? Because, oh my goodness, as a teenager, that just ain't what it feels like, right? It doesn't feel like you be like that. No, it is not. Right. I did not have no designer shoes. I was not allowed to have designer bags. You know, got me out here looking raggedy every day, you know. And that just wasn't the perspective I was coming from. But my grandmother was like, but that's what she was doing. And she apologized. My grandmother apologized and said, I was giving her my best. And so what she had to give you was the best that she had to give.
Wow.
Because she was doing the same thing you're doing, trying to figure out why I wasn't giving her X, Y, and Z. But what I had to give her, what I gave her was my best. So after that, what can you do but be at peace? But there was nowhere else that I could ever have gotten that answer than having that connection with my grandmother, having that ancestral connection. Who else could have given me that answer? And who else would I have listened to? Everybody who knows me knows how, hard-headed I am, right? If a living person, one of my older siblings, who of course knew my mother better than me because they'd known her for longer, right, could have said the same thing, and I would have been, I wouldn't listen to them. My older cousins and people who grew up with my mom, whatever, I wouldn't have taken. I wouldn't have been disrespectful. My mind would have been like, right? But how you going? You came straight from the source. You can hear your grandmother's voice in your head saying, "Well, baby, blah blah blah." You can't discount that, right? And there it is. It's healed. It's over. It's done. What conflict can you have after that? My grandmother completely healed it. 3 minutes from the ancestral line. Relationship healed. Good. This is why it is required of African people to maintain this connection. This is what keeps us sane, right? Everything has a spiritual cause. Most of what we are living is the effect. If you are, the more aware that you can be of the spiritual cause, the more at peace you can be, right? Okay. So, any questions?
When you said that they literally buried their ancestors in their home, did they take, were they cremated? Was that a literal term?
No, they bury the body. The body is buried in the traditional house in Yoruba land. The floor is dirt. So you dig that up and you bury the body. Like I said, the modern way of doing it after you bury them is you put towel over it. Like bathroom towel, the porcelain towel, you put that over it. That's the modern way because that's what the floors are made of in modern homes in Nigeria. But even I guess the poorer homes in Nigeria are still dirt floor. So that's where you bury the body. Like there was not a tradition of like a cemetery. You kept your family there with you. And even here in the United States, when back in ancient times, your family cemetery was in the backyard of your compound or home or estate or whatever. So it's very similar to that. It's the same way of viewing it as that is that you want those people to stay close to you. Mm-hmm.
So earlier when you were talking about the Jolly family,
Mm-hmm.
and how and they would continue to do that same tradition throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take up that particular trade, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and just giving that as an example of the many different types of trades.
Mm-hmm.
So being, with us being here and how our families come together, like you may have, like your mother's side of the family may have been strong in these particular
Mm-hmm.
things, and like your father's side of the family may be strong in these particular things. So with both of those coming together, or even then, on the continent, was it a thing where like the marriages were arranged so that only Jolly families married other Jolly families,
I
or
don't know.
did it mix up, and which one was
I
dominant?
would assume it mixed up.
I was just gonna say that, like, when listening to Tumani Diabate,
He's a child.
He's a child,
Mm-hmm.
and he plays the
Okay.
kora.
Mm-hmm.
He says that he plays the kora because his father played the kora and his grandfather played the kora and his grandfather played the kora. So I think it depends on whether or not you're patrilineal or matrilineal. You would decide based on like if you're matrilineal. Was your mother a Jolly? Was your mother's mother a Jolly? Or if it's a patrilineal tradition, then was your father this? Was your father's father that? Was your father that? Because that's the way that he was tracing it. Just
was by his
the
dad.
fathers. My son did, my granddad did this and that.
Right.
Then she would take on the matrilineal.
She may do it too, but it would be because her dad did. Like I know his dad, his culture is very patrilineal, and even when women talk of things that they might do or be, it's because of the mother of their father. Their father. It's too close. So that's the So maybe like that.
Yeah, I think, and every culture is different. So I know from what I can tell, just from the musicians that I love, it looks like Jollies are marrying into Jolly families,
Mm-hmm.
but that may be modern, you know. So I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. And I agree with Naila. It probably depends on that ethnic group.
That particular,
Yeah.
which way they
Hmm.
roll.
Now here in the use your divination to see which side of your family is reincarnated from,
Mm-hmm.
and so then you will know which side you come from. And when you have a baby, you look at which side of the family that baby came from, so you know which side, you know, they're pulling their whatever, their trade, their trade.
And even watching the children when they're small, you can kind of tell based on what they gravitate towards, the certain characteristics that come out
Mm-hmm.
in their personality, who they act like.
Yep.
And so,
Yep. It is always completely totally evident.
and just and that makes me want to think on our side, well, one side, their ancestors were not under this particular form of part of slavery, who were actually able to choose trades and became blacksmiths and bricklayers and things like that. If that was still wasn't ancestral, what
It
did they
was.
gravitate
Well, it
towards?
was
You know what I
because they took us based on what we could do.
mean?
So they would go those who needed cotton. You know, my family was growing cotton down in the Memphis area. So they took us from a part of Africa where we were already growing cotton. You see what I'm saying? If when they needed blacksmiths, then they took a whole bunch of blacksmiths. So it was.
So it was just a natural thing for you to
Yeah.
gravitate back towards that once we were
You
able
didn't
to.
because you had done it all through.
Okay,
Our
and then that's
ancestors
where you
did
were
it all
placed.
through,
Uh-huh.
enslavement anyway. So you had been a blacksmith anyway, all through enslavement.
So when they were buying and trading and selling, it was based on that particular
Our
skill
skills.
set. Like,
Yes.
okay, so you would go to the where they were auctioning them off and be specific looking for
The
a
ethnic group.
blacksmith.
No,
or
you knew that Wolofs are known for basket weaving, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, well that's Angola people. So people from Angola are known for their basket weaving. This is why the Gullah people in South Carolina still weave baskets, just like the people in Angola do. So they needed that those people were brought from Angola because they were already growing rice in Angola. They wanted to grow rice, those islands in South Carolina. So they brought that group of people. So then when they got to the slave auction, then they would say, I need Gola. That's what they would say. Because they knew this group of people already had this skill. So they didn't bring our ancestors here and teach them anything. They took us from what we were already doing and made us do it over here. So the cotton, the rice, the indigo, we were doing all this stuff in Africa. The blacksmithing, the way that we that wall around Fisk University that's built with we didn't have to put any cement into it. We cut the rocks so precisely that the rocks sit on top of each other in a way that they're still standing to this day. We were doing that in West Africa. They brought us with that skill and then had us do it. There is a plantation built, Ripper Villa. This is right outside of my hometown. And there is a part of that plantation where they ran out of nails, but they told our ancestors that they had to keep building. So there was a particular carpenter that was so fly that he made nails out of wood. Part of that house is built from these precise nails that he made out of wood and then cut the wood in such a way that it would still stay together, still standing to this day. So those skills, we had those. So wasn't nobody teaching nobody nothing. They were bringing us with those skills, and then yes, once the enslavement period was over, then yes, we became the most skilled. We were still the most skilled blacksmith there, so everybody was still coming to us. We were still the most skilled carpenter. So yes, we continue to use those skills after that. And in that same vein of us understanding that that's passed down through DNA, and that a large portion of that is spiritual. The things that you're skillful at is because you have a connection to the spirit of that, right? When I speak and when I write, very rarely am I talking about what I decided to sit here and talk about. It's a spirit that takes over, right? When I start writing a story, you hear writers talk about this all the time. I didn't even know it was going to be a mystery. You just start writing and the characters start doing it because this is the spirit you're connecting with when you dance, right? you know, you got there to do the dance, you're like, woo, you feel it take over, right? You just get into it. So this is part of showing how this thing is in your DNA. And so because you have an ancestral group that connects with that spirit of iron, we call Ogun, more closely, then yeah, all of y'all are blacksmiths. Y'all connect to that particular spirit with ease. So then yeah, y'all are the most magnificent blacksmiths. You know, we at home, the black blacksmiths um were always employed, this was even when I was little, to make the really ornate things out of iron. So all those in Colombia, all those really ornate, you see stuff that looks like vines and stuff like that. That we knew that black people made. This is when I was a child. You knew that a black man was hired to do that. That was known to be our way of working with iron. We did a lot of curves and and iron work was very big in my hometown when I was little. So you see a lot of iron work, iron fences and doors and things like that. But when you saw all that really curly, you knew, that was a black man that did that. So and I was born in 1969, so that was even still the case when I was growing up. So to me, it is an indication of being able to connect with that spirit and working with that spirit. Do you have questions? Miss me too. In honor of Miss McCarroll. Question. Maybe Miss McCarroll is from Jackson too. What is she from Jackson too?
I came from Macon.
Girl,
No.
I had to take Miss McCarroll anyway. As an English major, Fisk did not care. They made me take. Well, she was teaching the core biology class when I was there, and you couldn't get out of it. I was failing the stew out of it, and I just went to her office, and she had a harsh talking to with me, and she said, "Every time I say something that you don't understand, after class you come to my office," and I did. And before the semester was over, I had a B in that class. And she was like, if you don't understand it, why you sitting there acting like you understand? But this was the class that she taught in the chemistry building in one of those huge.
All the way up.
Well, I'm like, I can't see. I can't see you. Half these right. And that's what she said. She was like, I know that this is a big class. And she was like, just come and talk to me, and I'll re-explain it to you. I pay homage to Miss McCarroll. She pulled me through. She was your advisor. She is not. She's just country. I love her. She's still there. Oh my goodness, so fast. But all those scientists to me, all those people in the sciences talk like that. They just like, my brothers are like that. And my uncle.
What's his name? But the other was monotone. That man.
Idoku? Was he from Nigeria? Because there was a Nigerian man over there.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
He was monotone too.
No, he's still there now.
Dr. Bugs? You know my Dr. Bugs? Clifford Bugs.
Again, like I said, I left all them in that smelly building.
Girl, who?
And went over to the psychologist.
Right.
I love that psychologist. My one relief from that to me.
Did you have questions for me? Okay. All right. So we are then going to wrap it up as far as Egungun. For everybody out in the cyber audience, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So I'm going to do the beginning of this year as an Orisha series. So from the pantheon has a hierarchy. So Egungun is the first deity that you should learn to deal with when you enter into the tradition. That's where you have to start because that's your primary spiritual connection. So that's why I started with Egungun today. You don't try to deal with anybody else until you have dealt with Egungun, until you have gotten in contact with your own physical ancestors. So that's it. So next week we will do Ori, which is your head, your spiritual self, your destiny, because that's the next place that you should go. And then we'll just go down the hierarchy in order of how the Orisha are normally honored. Oldest first is always the African tradition. Yes.
And so as we are going through the different songs,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to like actually break down the words because I'm writing down phonetically what it sounds
Okay.
like you're saying,
Okay.
and like I don't know.
Okay. The ones that I know, I will. Some of them I only know phonetically too.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's best to learn them phonetically first.
Mhm.
Okay? Because
Just
if
get
you
the
try to
feeling.
learn them, because there's a beautiful song book, Orin Orisha by John Mason, that everybody should get. Sister Osarami Lanloke on Facebook has all of John Mason's books.
What's her name? I'm sorry.
Osarami Lanloke, Lanloke is the last name. She has all of his books. So I suggest that everybody get Orin Orisha. I actually need to get a new copy myself. So you can look and find the words.
Oh,
But
okay.
for me, it's harder for me to learn a Yoruba song trying to learn it by the words because I don't speak the language.
So you're trying to make like American or English sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you learn the song phonetically, then learn the words after that.
Mm-hmm.
And for the ones that I know, like the one I did today, the one that probably comes from Cuba, I don't completely know what the words are. But the ones that I know, that I don't just know phonetically, then I would definitely share the words and the meaning with you.
Okay.
Because that's my preference. My preference is to give people actual information so people know what they're doing and know what they're talking about. You know. All right. Odabo, everybody out in the cyber world.